Foreign Minister, thank you so much for that update there on the flooding. So if I could ask you, you're here at the United Nations this week, you're having all of these meetings. Are you getting what you need?
So I'm encouraged by the sympathy, the solidarity, the support that the government of the United States has offered. The United Nations Secretary General has put himself forward. You would have seen at the UN, you walk in and he's put a display of everything that's, of the flooding disaster that's happening in Pakistan. He himself in his speech called for action. He invited us to the COP sideline meeting, and we're looking forward to working with him going forward. But as far as the assistance is concerned, the aid is concerned, the supplies are concerned, it's all a drop in the ocean when you compare it to the requirements. Feeding 33 million people, providing them with shelter, providing them with mosquito nets, providing them with medical facilities, and through what is a long, drawn-out process, is incredibly challenging.
And as you said, there is now a second looming catastrophe. Already waterborne diseases are being reported, malaria cases are coming. What do you need for that?
We need the assistance of the international community, of the World Health Organization. I'll be meeting with Médecins Sans Frontières, Doctors Without Borders, and other such institutions, because it's particularly in the affected areas where much of these people are, our health infrastructure, although not great, was there. But it too is a victim of the flooding and the devastation, and many of our hospital infrastructure, our educational infrastructure has been damaged. As I said, it's the sort of climate crisis. There's a potential health catastrophe, food insecurity catastrophe, and given our economic conditions and the IMF deal we were in, we're also looking at potentially an economic catastrophe.
UN Secretary General said that you're drowning not just in floodwater, but also in debt. The UN Secretary General has suggested a new debt forgiveness mechanism. Do you think that's what is called for? As you said, Pakistan may need $30 billion to rebuild. So how can you possibly make debt repayments?
Absolutely, and I think it would be incredibly unfair to expect our people, while they're drowning, to make these debt repayments at this time. We're not asking for them to be sort of wiped off forever, but just given the priorities we have now, we'd be much better placed being able to use that money in immediate flood relief and going forward for reconstruction rehabilitation. I think that the United Nations Secretary General has shown true leadership and has some particularly compelling ideas about how we can meet this challenge. One of which is his suggestion of debt swap, which I find quite compelling. For example, we owe a lot of debt to many advanced countries that have contributed significantly to climate change. And they have a sort of a climate debt. We have an economic debt for which we can do. I don't believe there's an action mechanism in place, but what the UN Secretary General is suggesting is that instead of, at this moment, repaying that money in debt, if we were to spend it on climate infrastructure, on climate resilient infrastructure, on green infrastructure, that may be a way forward for now.
Because as you said, Pakistan is responsible for less than 1% of the world's emissions. We're here in the United States, which is one of the world's greatest emissions. Do you feel that the people of Pakistan are paying the price for the economic progress of countries like America, in that you are being impacted unfairly by climate change?
I wouldn't want to specifically point out any one country, and I don't actually think it's a question of sort of, rich versus poor, developing versus developed, north versus south. This is a global crisis of sort of everyone's making, and its solution is surely also global. There is an irony to the fact that that those who contribute the very least are the most impacted by this crisis. At COP, at the sideline meeting for COP27 yesterday, when I was putting forward Pakistan's case, there are many small island nations who've also been devastated time and time again by such climate shocks. And the sad thing is that we obviously have to rebuild every time, but that rebuilding does come with its own debt as well.
You go from the United Nations to Washington, well, you'll have many meetings with members of the administration. Clearly, flooding will be top of the agenda for your discussions. But what else is it that you want to raise with the US about the relationship?
At the moment, absolutely, honestly, whether I'm here in the UN or when I go to the United States, there's just one topic on my mind, and it's these floods and the climate catastrophe that we are dealing with. I mean, there is nothing else that I would focus my attention on right now. Suffice it to say, in the sense that, as I mentioned, we'll talk about the actual flooding, relief and rescue rehabilitation, but then the health, food, and economic crisis as well.
And if we can talk about your neighbor, India.
Sure.
Is this opportunity, this tragedy, is it opportunity for a reset? You mentioned that out of a crisis can come an opportunity. There's not much sign of it so far, but could that happen?
I haven't seen any signs of it. And at the moment, obviously, our primary focus is doing whatever we can to help our citizens. India is not one of the countries that have offered assistance. But as far as my party is concerned, my Prime Minister's party is concerned, we've long tried to create a peaceful environment with India, and we've consistently been strong advocates for engagement and peace with India. What has happened, unfortunately, is that India has fundamentally changed. It was once a secular country for all its citizens, and it's increasingly becoming a Hindu supremacist state, not only persecuting their own Muslim population, but particularly what's a problem for us is the Muslims in Indian-occupied Kashmir. And after the unilateral actions of August 2019, where they unilaterally tried to change the internationally disputed territory, subsequent actions to try and make the only Muslim-dominated region under their control to try and convert the Muslims of that land to a minority in their own land. It has made it incredibly difficult for Pakistan to engage. And now the onus is on India to create that space by stepping back from the extremist positions it took on August 2019 so that we can engage and so that we can talk. I honestly believe that the new generation, the younger generation, be it in Pakistan or in India, want to be able to live together as neighbors in harmony and in peace.
You represent that young generation as someone who's 34, who has 5 million followers on Twitter. You can be influential in so many ways. Do you think that it will be easier for you to confront some of the old thorny problems that have bedeviled the India-Pakistan relationship since partition?
I think that younger people do have this space in the sense that we're not carrying the baggage of the past as much. Unfortunately, as I mentioned, even for those of us in Pakistan who have been strong advocates for peace with India and for engagement with India, the actions of August 2019 have really, truly made it incredibly difficult for us.
The United States seems to see India as something of a hedge against China in the region. How do you see the US-Pakistan relationship after the US withdrawal from Afghanistan? Do you feel the US is still prioritizing you?
So I believe that our relationship with the United States stands on its own, and it's not linked to any other country. We have strong historic ties that is stretched over many, many years. I believe that with the withdrawal in Afghanistan, and I'm sure you'll get to that, it's its own topic in and of itself, but this does provide an opportunity for Pakistan and the United States to engage on broader terms and not just through the prism of Afghanistan. And there are a whole host of areas that we can cooperate, that we are looking forward to cooperating in, whether it is climate, whether it is agriculture, whether it is business. Your business envoy came to Pakistan before the flooding, and I'm looking forward to enhanced engagement with the United States.